a newly created Siberian battalion members of both ethnic Russians with opposition views and Siberia's minority ethnic groups in a sandy mountain gate outside Kiev. A group of soldiers on camouflage learned the foundations of the war in Russia. A newly established battalion within the Ukrainian army consists of 50 Russians who came to fight against other citizens. GRCH warrior passing through the call sign. Russia. The Putin regime against imperialism as soon as possible to enter Ukraine. I decided to enter. The war in Ukraine attracted a motley foreign volunteer in the International Legion of the Army, including most Siberian battalions. The warriors covered their faces and did not want to give their names. A variety of groups were ethnic Russians who have been ongoing opposition for a long time, as well as members of Siberia's minority ethnic groups. This is not the only Russian unit fighting for Ukraine. This spring, other two people came up after short attacks on border another unit called Russian Volunteer Corps and Freedom of Legion with connections to far-right and football hooligans. Absolutely Legal International Legion spokesman said the Russians could not give details about how they entered Ukraine, but some of them came to small groups. We don't bring them to car boots, he stressed. He continued, this is not illegal transitions. Absolutely legal. We must look for various gaps in international and Ukraine legislation so that they can enter Ukraine. He said that none of them had prisoners and in military contracts. Gracha. Ukraine was born in the Crimea, but working as a medical officer. Said he lived in Moscow. We need to liberate Ukraine. Where I was born in the Crimea. This is my dream. He said that their political views are not explicitly defined, but they are more liberal than Russia. Gracha added that he had participated in the opposition protests against the war, but felt meaningless. Sooner or later there will be a big concentration camp. Basically it is already. He left Russia last year and tried to enter Ukraine, but at first there was no organization. There was no information about how to enter. He spent time in countries that were mainly visa for the Russians living in a tent. Finally, said he found an organization called Civic Council, who said hired for the Siberian battalion on his website. Gracha said he accepted the transition of the organization with his wife. I spent some time to wait in third countries, and they wrote that we could go out at a great moment. Provided the route and entered Ukraine. He continued, we have different views in this war. We talked about this issue many times and discussed many times. Another warrior fled more than a decade ago. He said that he had been separated from political persecution and lived in Sweden since 2011. I have participated in anti-government, anti-Putin activities for a long time and had to migrate. Hikaye.